Apparently, we can't say the revival. I'm sorry, but it's not. My whole bit is, you know what? If you're not down with that, I got 3 words for you. That's the big
calm down.
And they took this. They took this. They'd already taken my last name.
Can't say
One night I went to bed, Cody. Nope, just Cody. Just a singular name. And now I can't say. Can't say that. You can't say that. And they can't say shirts. Say fuck. They can't get their shirts. Relax. That's the whole bit. Bible, right?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one true villain, Marty Skell. And as you all know, all my friends are dead. It's very unfortunate. But if they were alive, I'd encourage them to listen to Tiger Driver Radio. Yes, if you want to get up to date and all your Ring of Honor news, New Japan, you want to hear about villain enterprises, then Tiger Driver Radio is the station for you. So make sure you give it a download, you give it a listen, and don't be a bloody numpty. Long live the villain.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of I Love Jerry's Mom. Oh, man. I'm sorry, I was too fucking easy. Welcome to another episode of Tiger Driver Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, this is your main man, JP, alongside
Juicy the J-Man.
The J-Man? Now you're the J-Man this week?
Yeah, J-Man. Juicy J.
J-Man? I don't know.
Man, I thought that was a good one.
I just like it when you go by Juicy J.
Juicy J.
Juicy J.
I'll go back to the robot one. Juicy J.
Hi, my name is Juicy J. Would you like to play a game? Remember that movie? War Games with Matthew Broderick? Dude, I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I think Matthew Broderick is like the weirdest looking dude ever. I don't know. Like I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I just hate him. I don't know.
He's a little weird like you. But he's a cool guy.
He's weird like me. But the thing is, like, if Matthew Broderick was in wrestling, he'd be like one of those like snotty like managers. Like he'd manage some tag team and he'd constantly like get beat up. That's what I think. If he was in wrestling. I'm just saying. Random thought of the day.
Really random. Really it's out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What's a celebrity that you think would be an awesome fit in wrestling? Like, honestly. That's like that hasn't been involved in wrestling.
I'm gonna say Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Like, but in what capacity? Like
he'll be a manager.
Manager?
Yeah.
I think he'd be awesome in color commentary. You know when he gets like super like hyped up or whatever. Like I don't know. I just think like he would totally fucking just kill it as a color commentator. Like him next to Tony Schiavone or something. Yeah. I don't know. Random thought.
Good teams.
Good thought, man. But anyway, we got an awesome show for you guys this week, man. And like I said, a lot of really interesting tidbits of news, as well as a retirement this week. Like I said, as of this show, Iisuka from Suzuki-gun has officially retired from active competition. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Like I said, the guy's been wrestling since, 1986? Yeah. Where he started off, as a rookie and has, held tag titles several times, including a stint with Riki Choshu, as well as with Toru Yano. Yep. As well. So, like I said, has had a very long career, and like I said, he got most famous for his time when he in 2008 when he turned on his faction of GBH, where he turned on Tenzan and then joined Chaos. And then from Chaos, turned on them to join Suzuki-gun. And he's been with Suzuki-gun ever since. And, this past week he had his retirement match where it was a 3-on-3 against, it was him, Taichi, our new favorite guy, and Minoru Suzuki against the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada, Toru Yano, and, of course, Tenzan, you know, which, like I said, Tenzan has been playing off of the fact that for the past 2 months he's been trying to reach into Iisuka's like psyche and be like, well, snap out of it, man. Like you used to be my friend. This isn't you. So they really played really well off that. We'll discuss that a little bit later. But like I said, it was definitely an interesting way to send off a retirement match. You know, I thought so. Because, you know, usually when you hear about retirements in wrestling, there's this very big formal thing and whatever else. No, it was about as chaotic.
Some matches. Let's get some action.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, to start this off, like I said, it was a really entertaining card. You also saw the return of Robbie Eagles, the other junior heavyweight in Bullet Club, you know, who comes from Australia, an awesome high flyer that he's often been, you know, teaming up with Taiji Ishimori. So he made his return, and of course he got his pinfall back against Young Lion Yua Imura and Jushin Thunder Liger in a tag match with a 450 splash. So I personally think this year Robbie Eagles is going to really break out as a strong junior heavyweight besides Taiji Ishimori.
Yeah, hopefully, because I think he started in October, right? I think of last year.
Yeah, in the junior.
But then he wasn't coming up too much.
No, he basically was participating as Taiji Ishimori's tag partner for the junior tag league around that time frame.
Yeah,
and they did announce that he is officially a member of the Bullet Club, but he hasn't been prominent. He hasn't really been prominently featured on TV outside of the Junior Tag League. So maybe from here on out, we'll start to see him, make his presence more well known. I hope so. The guy's talented as hell. He's had some amazing matches against Will Ospreay, so we'll see how he pans out. But of course, he landed the pinfall against Yua Yamura in the opening match, and then in the second match of the night, which is the team of Tiger Mask, Toa Henare, and Tomoaki Hanma and Togi Makabe against the team of Yota Tsuji, Ren Narita, Manabu Nakanishi, and Satoshi Kojima. Pretty much a showcase of young lions in this match. Like I said, I really think that a lot of these young lions that we're seeing right now are getting ready to make that next logical step in terms of really upping their game and possibly excursion. So I'm really excited. In this match, of course, Toa Henare got the pinfall against a very young and very energetic Yota Tsuji. The one thing about Yota Tsuji as a young lion that I don't like is, I know all young lions, when they wrestle, they're encouraged to show passion, to show fire, to show, like they're aggressive, to be as aggressive as possible out there in the ring. The one thing about Yota Tsuji is that I really feel as if he needs to work on his stamina. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm not saying he's not in great shape. I mean, he's in way better shape than I am, for damn sure. But I just think that in terms of building his reputation as an up-and-coming young lion, like he needs something. He needs to kind of build on that pain tolerance, because he's always one guy to always get pinned and get tapped out. And granted, every young lion gets pinned, gets tapped out. Like, you don't expect young lions to win matches, you don't. But I think Yota Tsuji kind of needs something of a, I don't know, focus on like his stamina in that ring.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
To me, he looks a little. Maybe this is the wrong word to use, but he seems a little dorky. Like the way he moves is not as crisp as the other ones. Like
awkward moving.
Yeah.
He moves. Yeah, exactly. It's not like, Shota Umino or
Narita.
Or Ren Narita, who are very sharp. But you can definitely tell those two guys are going to be somebody in the future. But speaking of other young lions, in this third match, the tag team of Shota Umino and his teacher Yuji Nagata against the team of Yoshihashi and Tomohiro Ishii. And of course, Yoshihashi got the pinfall over Shota Umino. Shota Umino, like I said, very impressive young lion. Always super aggressive, very crisp. A future star in the making. And personally, when it comes to Yoshihashi, I've let my feelings be known that he is one of the most uncharismatic people on the roster. Thank you. I'm here all week. And he got a pinfall, against a young lion. Yay.
He did something.
At this point with a butterfly lock. But anyway, in this fourth match of the night, it was the team of Sho and Yo against the team of El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Sho got the pinfall with the 3K. 3K. They hit the 3K on Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and I noticed that with Sho and Yo, they're definitely trying to build them up into being a lot more aggressive and very almost heel-like.
Yeah.
They're not these like pretty boy. I know, like in Japan, they get featured a lot in magazines and in interviews and on TV, because they're both two good looking guys. very, they appeal to a younger, woman.
Backstreet Boys looking.
Yeah, they look like they could be in a boy band, in a J-pop boy band or something. So they have that look to them, but I can tell that they're starting to make them have a little bit of an edge. Like they're more aggressive, and that made for a really entertaining tag team match against El Desperado and Kanemaru, who are very awesome junior heavyweight tag team heel. Very awesome heels, but it's nice to see that these guys are starting to get an edge to them, because I think in order to kind of catapult them into the next level of success, they need that. I just think, like, we know they can work, we know that they got the look, but what can they do with their characters now? So it'll be really interesting. Of course, Sho, got the pinfall over Yoshinobu Kanemaru, surprising to me, honestly. But of course, they're up next for the next tag team title shots against the Dragon.
Shingo and Bushi. Which is at the end of this match, they just went in there and just beat Yo and Sho to a pulp. They just kept hitting them.
Yeah, they laid them down, man. They fucked their ass up. That's what they did. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I like the fact that there's an edge to these guys, and it's going to make for a really interesting, contest when they go against Los Ingobernables.
Yeah, and you're right. They are interesting because they have a wide range. They could put on the lucha mask and then start doing lucha, and like you said, doing this and heels and faces. They do everything.
Absolutely. And then this next match was the team of Ryusuke Taguchi and Hiroki Goto against the team of Taka Michinoku and Zack Sabre Jr. Of course, Taguchi getting the pinfall on Taka Michinoku with the clutch hold. A very short match. Wasn't anything too special. I think he was kind of setting up, just more of a rivalry that's going on between Suzuki-gun and the rest of the New Japan roster. But it's really interesting how they're continuing this storyline of pairing members of Chaos with the rest of the New Japan roster, because for the longest time there was several factions. You had the Bullet Club, you had Los Lij, you had Suzuki-gun, and then you had just the New Japan roster guys themselves. And now it seems like Chaos and the New Japan roster have kind of combined ever since.
Yeah, I guess since
ever since what happened with the Switchblade, and everything with the Bullet Club. So it's really interesting that they're continuing that. So it was, like I said, a decent tag team match. And then this next tag team match was very entertaining. Like I said, this kind of shows you that Will Ospreay is starting to slowly being pushed as a competitor against heavyweights. Even though, like I said, he's still technically a junior, he currently holds a never open weight title match, and in this match he teamed with Hiroshi Tanahashi against Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer, and he hit the Oscutter on Davey Boy Smith Jr. for the pinfall. And I don't know if he twerked his knee a little bit. I don't know. I mean, did you catch what happened to him?
I didn't. I think it was just...
He was just selling?
Yeah, because he's been selling out recently.
Yeah, he's been selling his knee thing. But I mean, also another thing is that the one thing that I've noticed with Will Ospreay is that in his conquest of trying to become a legitimate heavyweight, he is kind of taking a more aggressive tone. Like, yeah, he still does the high flying, but he's not. It's less about pandering. It's less about pandering to the audience and more about just him just attacking his opponents. I mean, the fact that he got a very impressive pinfall over Davey Boy Smith Jr., who is, like I said, is no small man himself. Neither is Lance Archer. But the fact is, I mean, they're really pushing him into being a legitimate heavyweight, I think. And I think the never open weight is going to be his stepping stone to more success in the heavyweight division down the road.
Yeah, and let me ask you this. He's paired here with the ace of New Japan, and Kushida just left, which was the other ace. Do you think Ospreay could be the next ace, or because he's a foreigner, they probably wouldn't do that?
You mean like the ace of the junior division?
Right.
I think at this point, Will Ospreay wants to move past being a junior heavyweight. I mean, he's expressed wanting to, one day headline the Tokyo Dome, one day compete for the IWGP heavyweight title. And as you've seen these past couple of years, he's put on some size. He's put on some weight. He's put on some size. He can still fly, but he's definitely diversified his arsenal to where it's a lot more power moves and power strikes, because I really think that he wants to come off as a more complete wrestler than just being the high flyer, flippy floppy, highlight reel, that everyone kind of, I feel like
members from the Ricochet
match. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a couple years ago when he had that match with Ricochet, I feel like people were so quick to pigeonhole him as just being the high flyer guy, and that was it. And I mean, granted, he's phenomenal. He's brilliant. He's brilliant as a high flyer. But I think with him putting on more size and him kind of taking on a more dark undertone of his persona lately, it shows you that there's more depth not only to his ring psychology and his work as a wrestler, but the fact that he is a lot more than just the high flyer, than just the highlight reel. I mean, he can do that too, but I like seeing this edge to him. Like, he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and rightfully so. I mean, like I said, I think in due time, you might see a future heavyweight IWGP heavyweight champion, in the making. And him teaming up with Hiroshi Tanahashi was just, I think Tanahashi at this point is nursing some injuries.
Yeah, and I think we talk about it every week, but it seems like every week it's slowly getting better, and hopefully gets better soon, because if he keeps going like that, he's gonna lose interest of his fans.
Absolutely. And I think maybe he might need to take some time off away, as well. I mean,
just same with Dalton Castle. I think he's in the same boat as Tanahashi, and we could talk about that later maybe, but he's in the same boat of they should go away for a while and then come back.
I think maybe he may come back too soon.
Yeah.
And he really needs to kind of take it easy, and we'll see how his body holds up in the upcoming New Japan Cup, which is going to come up next week. So that'll be really interesting to see how he pans out in there. But let's get on to this last one, man. This last but not least, the Takashi Iisuka retirement match. Yeah, man. A near 32 years in the ring, man.
Long time.
Takashi Iisuka, like I said, he teamed up with, of course, his teammates in Suzuki-gun of Minoru Suzuki and Taichi against the team of Toru Yano, Hiroshi Tenzan, and Kazuchika Okada. And there was a lot of awesome, like I said, a lot of this was just a lot of brawling. And what's funny about this match is that they brought out an old announcer from years ago, a guy who used to be part of the New Japan broadcasting team.
Nogami was his name, right?
Yeah. And they brought him out, and when Iisuka came out from the audience, he noticed that he was sitting there, so immediately he walked over to him and just ripped off his shirt and beat him up a little bit.
I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, he was famous. Like, years ago when he was part of the broadcasting team, he was famous for that. Like, every time he would see this guy around, Iisuka would just go over and harass him, just try to choke him, bite him, rip his clothes off. And today was no different. He comes back one time and then bam, and that's what starts the match. And then throughout this match, like I said, it was a standard tag team match, but the thing that they kept playing off was when Tenzan would constantly try to speak to Iisuka, saying, dude, snap out of it, like, it's me. And the one interesting thing that I noticed as the match progressed, halfway through the match, you saw Iisuka kind of snap out of it for a little while and start to wrestle a more traditional wrestling style. Like, of course, he hit his, he used to have a patented sleeper hold. He started hitting, trying to, utilize his sleeper hold. He hit the, his patented leg scissor, his knee lock. So he started utilizing all these submissions that he was famous for, in the first part of his career. So we started hitting these moves and kind of wrestling a more traditional style. So people were like, whoa, like, we haven't seen Iisuka actually wrestle actually wrestle a normal style in a long time, because he's famous for just brawling and biting people at this point. But there was a period of time where he was known as being a technically proficient wrestler. So you saw that come out. Like, he would, try to hit that knee lock on Okada. And I really thought for a second, oh man, is Okada going to tap to Iisuka for the retirement? I mean, it was possibly, for a second I thought it, because Okada was screaming his head off, So it was weird for me to see Iisuka act normal for 10 minutes. So when that happened, and then later on in the match, Okada hit the tombstone, and then Tenzan brought out his T-shirt that he had. Like I said, they had a T-shirt back in the day, when they were
Best Friends T-shirt.
The Best Friends T-shirt, exactly. Yeah. So he put the T-shirt on him, hit his moonsault, pinned 1, 2, 3, and then afterwards he kept saying, "Come on, man, shake my hand." And Iisuka was just losing his mind, and the crowd is just cheering him on, Iisuka, just trying to make him snap out of it. He's losing his mind. They shake hands all but brief, and then bam, he snaps out of it, or he snaps again and just starts beating up Tenzan. And then the rest of Suzuki-gun comes in, beats him up, Iisuka just starts running through the crowd crazy one more time, and they give him the 10-bell salute for retirement, because that's the tradition, is that they ring the bell 10 times for anybody's retirement. But instead, Minoru Suzuki went out there and was like, all right, well, clearly this guy's going to be running around like crazy. I'm just going to ring the 10-bell count, and then we're out of here. And then even in the back, after comments, like Taichi kind of gave praise to Iisuka, saying, you're a badass, you're awesome, but we never know what the hell you're thinking. We don't even know if your retirement is real. But, you could tell that Taichi was giving his respect. But then afterwards, Iisuka walks, in the backstage area, and they couldn't get any comments out of him. He just walked right past everybody, just ran through. So I think it was a fitting retirement. It was complete chaos.
It's different.
Yeah, like usually when you see retirement matches, like guy wins or loses, probably loses.
Yeah.
Do a speech, do the 10-bell count, and everyone comes out and hugs him or whatever. Not this way. Not Iisuka. Iisuka just flat out left the match and retired the same way he came in that day, and just causing chaos, beating up people, just like losing his mind. So it was fitting. It was fitting. Like I said,
fitting for him.
Fitting for him,
his gimmick,
and him being a complete we give you we'll give you our own salute, Iisuka. Here's to an awesome 30-year career, which is very hard to do in pro wrestling. Having a very long career is extremely hard. So, there's that. And this kind of concluded, I guess, the new year, the beginning of the new year for New Japan. And on our next episode, we will be talking in detail the New Japan Rising, the Honor Rising shows that are happening, which is the Ring of Honor New Japan collaborative shows, at Korakuen Hall for night 1 and night 2. So stay tuned for that episode, because I think these cards will kind of, between these cards and what happens in the New Japan Cup this upcoming couple of weeks, it's going to definitely set up the pace of what's going to happen at Madison Square Garden, in early April. Which let's do some hot takes, man. We got some topics to talk about in regards to what's happening with New Japan and MSG. So there you go.
Let's do that.
Yeah, man. And word on the street is I see on the secondary market, and this has kind of been something that a lot of people have been worried about, is that as everything gets starting to build up for the New Japan show at Madison Square Garden, like I said, history has already been made. The fact that they've already sold it out is historic. But what's really alarming is that there seems to be a large number of tickets out on the secondary market, like about nearly 4,000 tickets.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Yeah. Like if you go online, there's been a lot of reports about how if you go on on StubHub and secondary, ticket markets, there's about nearly 4,000 tickets being sold for the MSG show. And I think, what was the MSG count? Like about nearly 16,000 tickets or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so you're going to be there by yourself, man?
Yeah, pretty much.
Sounds like,
but if you think about it, 4,000 tickets out of 16, that's a fourth of the audience not there, or trying not to be there because of whatever reason. And a lot of people blame the fact that the casual New Japan audience are disappointed that Kenny Omega, the Bucks, the Elite aren't there anymore. And also, that same night, WWE is running their Hall of Fame, which it's going to be pretty historic because they're inducting, D-Generation X with China and the Hart Foundation, and that might take away some of the interest from New Japan that night to attend their show.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that, like I said, the Elite aren't going to be on this card at all.
Yeah, and there's so much going on that weekend. That, it makes sense for people trying to find other things to do other than that. But if it was me, I would go to the New Japan. But
the thing that kind of upsets me a little bit is, as happy as I am that the Elite were, in a sense, kind of responsible for bringing more eyes to the product of New Japan Pro Wrestling, I still think there's such a strong amount of talent on the card and on the roster that there should be no reason for people to not check it out anyway, because it's quality wrestling. And that's something that's always really disappointed me about how fickle wrestling fans can be, is that people often complain about, this and that. And, every fan complains. Every fan has an opinion. But when there's options and alternatives, in order for people to continue to having options and alternatives, you have to kind of devote your time and money and attention to it. So I don't think when wrestlers leave a certain promotion, that's any reason to stop watching a certain promotion, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. And because New Japan is really good, and it's going to continue to be good. It's not going to stop of...
Just because one wrestler leaves doesn't mean it's going to stop.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, the show must go on. And the thing is, like I said, I have been an avid fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling since about 95, 96. And they have gone through some ups and downs. They've almost come to a point where New Japan Pro Wrestling went under. And it almost came to a point where that business no longer was going to be around.
They went through their new aggression era.
The new, I guess,
they call it sort of a type of like that.
They call it the Inokiism era, because that was the time when Antonio Inoki was taking his top guys, putting him in MMA matches, and they were getting destroyed. So if you think about it, you put any wrestler on your roster into an MMA fight and they lose. When they come back to wrestle, that kind of suspends your belief in this wrestler. It's like, wow, why am I watching? This guy can't fight. He sucks. And granted, everyone knows that pro wrestling is scripted and whatever else, but it suspends your belief. Mm-hmm. You know, it suspends your belief in the character. So it kind of makes your guys look weak. So there was a period of time where New Japan was struggling to stay afloat. And I think now with this global expansion, you have a lot more international eyes, a lot more foreigners wrestling there. But I don't think because the Elite left, that's any reason for people to stop watching New Japan, because New Japan is very much a strong product. So
yeah, and then New Japan, with the Elite being there, on my opinion, when the Elite were in New Japan, I didn't like them as much as compared to Ring of Honor, being in Ring of Honor shows or other shows they did in the independent scene. When they were in New Japan, since they were mostly heels with their fans also, I didn't like them as much in New Japan compared to everything else they were on.
Really? Why is that?
And I think they didn't let them do most of their spots they usually do in New Japan. I mean, they did do a lot of them, but not compared to, as I said, the other indie shows they had. They didn't give them that flexibility, I think. They were more restricted, in my opinion. I mean, again, they still did a lot of that, but not what they do in other shows.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in Japan, people wrestle less of a spot-oriented style and more of a scientific wrestling style.
Yeah.
So that's in my defense of their style. In the indies in America, people are all about moments, and the typical audience member doesn't have a very long attention span, so you got to grab their attention. And the Young Bucks are super geniuses about trying to grab an audience's attention, not only fast but to keep it. And I feel like in Japan, they have to wrestle, even though they were still great matches.
Yeah.
They were wrestling a more methodical style. You know, and to caveat off of that, speaking of styles, the one thing that was really interesting this past week in wrestling, as we're kind of getting away from the Madison Square Garden thing, which I encourage everyone out there to go, please, if you have tickets, still go. I mean, New Japan is an awesome product.
Say what's up to JP when he's out there.
Yeah,
take
exactly.
some photos.
I'll be out there. Come hang out with me. But the thing that I wanted to mention is this past week was the Giant Baba Memorial Wrestling Show, which if anyone's not familiar with Giant Baba is one of the originators of Japanese wrestling in Japan, where he led All Japan Pro Wrestling. So we talk about a lot of New Japan here, but one thing I think maybe in the future we could talk a little bit more about All Japan. But Giant Baba passed away many years ago. Was responsible for bringing All Japan, and All Japan of course was famous for a lot of those amazing 5-star matches in the 90s of like Kawada versus Kobashi or Mitsuharu Musawa or like Stan Hansen or even like Gary Albright and guys like that. Not to mention Johnny Ace. If anybody doesn't know who Johnny Ace, Johnny Laurinaitis from WWE. He was also the guy who created the Ace Crusher. For those of you who don't know, the Ace Crusher is pretty much the Diamond Cutter or the RKO. But he was the one who originated that move. Point is, what I'm trying to say is that one thing that was really interesting about the Giant Baba Memorial card was that it featured a lot of who's who in Japan's wrestling scene. So you got to see a lot of dream matches. And the one dream match that I want to point out was seeing Hiroshi Tanahashi and former All New Japan Pro Wrestling alumni Yoshi Tatsu face off against Big Japan Pro Wrestling's Daisuke Sekimoto and Kento Miyahara, who's currently All Japan's heavyweight champion. Now Kento Miyahara is a star. He is awesome. He is young. He is cocky, brash, aggressive in that ring. And the one thing that was really fascinating about seeing a match like this was that Tanahashi was wrestling as a heel against in this match, which in the past, Tanahashi has kind of teased at being a heel, but this entire match he was mocking Daisuke Sekimoto, and of course, going toe to toe with Kento Miyahara. Of course, Kento Miyahara, pinned Yoshitatsu at the end of the match, and then at the end they gave praise to Giant Baba, and of course Tanahashi and Kento Miyahara were kind of giving each other praise and whatever else. You could tell they were super careful with not making the two biggest stars in that match look bad. So, but it was really interesting to see Tanahashi be a heel, like mocking people and not caring what the audience thought, because the audience was booing him. They were booing him, and he was just like, he didn't give a shit. Like,
he didn't care because he was in another promotion.
He was another promotion. It was more so like a star-studded card, because you also had featured on this card like the original Mita Mascaras, who's super old at this point, with Dos Caras against Kaz Hayashi and deathmatch wrestler Nosawa Rongai, and then of course you saw Atsushi Onita in a street fight with a team of guys against like Great Kojika, or you had Taka Michinoku Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru against Yuma Agoy, Masanobu Fuji, and Yoshiaki Fujiwara, who were a bunch of old timers. So, which of course they beat those old timers, but it was really interesting to see how like all these different promotions came together to celebrate, the Giant Baba. Also, not to mention, this was officially Abdullah the Butcher's retirement. He officially came out in a wheelchair, and he officially announced his retirement from pro wrestling, which, another guy, has officially decided to, call it quits. Like, I'm done. Thing is, Abdullah the Butcher should have retired a long time ago, man. Like, it was painful to watch him walk. He had a lot of knee issues and a lot of injuries. But the one thing that I remember watching him when I was a little kid is watching Abdullah the Butcher's violent matches against Bruiser Brody, and back in when they used to wrestle in Texas for the Von Erichs. Like, talk about a guy who was an innovator of the ultra-violent style. I mean, would stab his opponents with forks, stuff like that.
Dang.
So, yeah. Like, have you ever sat down and watched an Abdullah the Butcher match?
I haven't.
The most amount of wrestling that you'll see out of Abdullah the Butcher is a headlock. And that's just so he can stab his opponent in the forehead with a fork. Yeah, exactly. He's go crazy. I'm telling you. So that was also featured on this card. But one thing that I want to kind of go back to was with Tanahashi. I really hope that, like I said, he's been a babyface for years. I think what can kind of reinvigorate not his career, there's nothing wrong with his career, but to kind of show a different side to his character is why doesn't he just go full on heel at this point? He's already a legend in Japan.
I'm not gonna let him. It's just like the John Cena factor.
So like there's too much money to be made off of his name because he's such a good guy.
The ace.
But I still think it was awesome to see him wrestle a cocky style, be a heel, mock the other wrestlers, which is not something you usually see from Tanahashi. It's like you kind of saw that being hinted at when he had his title match against Jay White, where he started to kind of use heel tactics to kind of fight against Jay White, but came up short. So I would like to see a more heel centric Tanahashi. But that's just my opinion.
My name is Jeff.
Okay. You jackass. Oh man. But I don't know. The one thing that I think, and personally, in my opinion as well, that could kind of stir some things up with New Japan is start mixing things up with their characters more. Make Tanahashi heel. Obviously, with the Roppongi 3K, they're
make Yoshihashi a big face.
I don't know.
Not that big.
Send Yoshihashi out on excursion again to learn something, and then come back and maybe he'll impress me, or impress everyone else. Because I know a lot of people feel the same way. Yeah. I don't know. I think personally, what would be a great asset to them is to start bringing more Japanese wrestlers that are young, that aren't young lions, that are already somewhat established, and to kind of beef up the roster on the Japanese side of things, because you have Ring of Honor guys coming in and out all the time. So I think I would like to see more Japanese wrestlers being showcased that are young, that have not been around, that might have name value from other promotions that can come in, which is why I was so happy to see like Kento Miyahara and Tanahashi go at it. That was super entertaining to watch, so not to mention I didn't realize that Yoshitatsu was such a great worker. So I mean, it was surprising to see. I don't know. I just think they need something to mix up that roster to kind of reinvigorate the loss of the Elite. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, as much as I think New Japan is still a strong product, it would definitely help if they change some things around. That's all.
Yeah, they should incorporate your mom.
Ladies and gentlemen, this guy tries way too hard. When he's trying, you're hurting, man.
I just need to get one. Try to get one out there.
Exactly, man. But you want to go in and talk about some other news, man?
Let's do it.
Hulk Hogan didn't indicate this would be his last. I don't care. I don't give a damn.
I know I gotta deal with DX, but you are taking it way too far. Look at you. They said stop wearing this stuff. Your luck's gonna run out, man. You're gambling with these guys, but they're serious. They are serious. They will take you to court, and bam, just like that, you will lose thousands of dollars.
Johnny's in here. It's going here. Come on.
That's obviously them. Go hide.
All right, man. What do you got for me, bro?
So I was listening to the X-Pac 123 podcast.
Yes.
And he was talking about a couple of things, and one of the things is I wanted to get his perspective is on, you mentioned this earlier about the DX to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And everyone out there is talking about, oh, well, China should have done it on her own, and these people should have done all it together. So I just wanted to get his version of what he thought. And what his thought was of what everyone was saying is, I mean, this is a win for her. Like, why? She's still going to be in the Hall of Fame, so why make it a big deal? Like, all these people together was great for him, because that's the most fun he had in WWE. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I don't know if you thought it was interesting that they pulled something like that, to, especially with Billy Gunn being in AEW. You know, different things going on.
Okay, I see where you're getting at. Like I said, usually on this podcast, we tend to avoid WWE things.
Yeah.
But I think this is such a big announcement that has a lot of implications that we couldn't ignore it, and I'm glad you brought this up. Here's my take on it. I agree, yes, this is a victory, because China, of all people, does belong in a Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. There's no denying her influence and her impact on wrestling in the 90s and early 2000s. What I personally think, even though a group like D-Generation X, there's no denying their influence. We were all teenagers. We were all kids back then. Yeah. How many times did you see a kid throw Suck It, or wear a DX shirt, or just love that entrance music? I mean, they were on fire back then. Yeah. So there's no denying they belong. I'm not arguing that. What my problem is China by herself, name value by herself, did so much to push women's wrestling in the United States. Mm-hmm. That although her coming in with DX is well deserved, absolutely, she's in the Hall of Fame, but I feel like it was a political move to put her in the Hall of Fame, so people could say, "Oh, you see, now she's in the Hall of Fame," but they'll never put her on her own, because it was kind of like it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. You know what I mean? It's like a backhanded compliment. It's like, "Oh, you know, we acknowledge your accomplishments, but you're going to share it with these other guys." And now, like I said, I'm not saying that DX doesn't deserve it. We all know their influence. It's unprecedented. But I think China by herself, knowing the kind of influence she had on women's wrestling, on the perception of women's wrestling in America, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame on her own. But because of her fucking past in the adult entertainment business, because of the history she had with Triple H and that drama with, behind the scenes with dating and, him leaving, to go be with Stephanie McMahon, perhaps this was some sort of underhanded way to kind of put her in the Hall of Fame and put that issue to rest, because I don't think they themselves could ever justify putting Joni Laurer into the Hall of Fame. That's what I think. Yeah.
Because this had so many implications and weird situations and moves they did, because the Road Dogg and Triple H set them more of an authority with them being in charge of in WWE. Billy Gunn, it seemed like they were kind of extending an olive branch maybe to AEW, saying, hey, I mean, we don't have any animosity towards you guys, so we're going to put him there too. And then X-Pac, before he leaves to anywhere else, or they try to grab him anywhere else, we're going to put him on with us too.
I don't know if he necessarily, because X-Pac doesn't really wrestle that often anymore.
He doesn't, but before they take him to be like a producer or anything else, like they were doing with a bunch of people.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I'm glad that you say that, because Billy Gunn is going to be working for AEW.
Yeah.
perhaps this is kind of like an olive branch to be like, hey, Billy Gunn, you know what? You can come back and work with us.
Yeah.
And because before that, he was a head coach for NXT. And, of course, he got fired, based on that controversy with steroids and everything that happened a couple years ago. But it doesn't surprise me that they give him a Hall of Fame ring, and maybe this is kind of like a little bit of an enticement to bring him back into WWE, just so that way he does not work for AEW. It wouldn't surprise me if that was some of the thought. Also, with New Japan Pro Wrestling having their big show on Saturday, the fact that they moved the Hall of Fame to Saturday, and the fact that you put a big name like DX as one of the headlining, attractions for the Hall of Fame, you want to take away attention from everyone else's shows that night, and I think this is a multifaceted move. I don't put it past a big company like WWE, who is a publicly traded Fortune 500 company, to pull something like this. You don't get that big without thinking on a cerebral and multifaceted level on how to fucking make it harder for your competition. And what better way than to provide a big attraction on the same night as another big show that's happening, to also lend olive branches to other talent to possibly bring back loyalty to the WWE in terms of backstage roles, in terms of their involvement with the company, instead of possibly working with AEW or finding alternative means to work for other companies or whatever else. And then, of course, there's the whole thing with Joni Lore and China. So I would not be surprised if this was a bit of a power move, because the way that I see it, when you see WWE asking fans to take off AEW or Elite t-shirts off at shows, why are they so threatened? Why are they so threatened by an upstart company? That leads me to believe that they see that this has a lot of AEW and any sort of other competition, all these types of wrestling, all these other wrestling companies outside of the WWE universe are viable options, or can be viable options, and I think they don't like that. Like I said, people say, oh, Vince McMahon loves competition. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Because if he liked competition, this is coming from the same guy that doesn't like the fact that SmackDown back in the 2000s for a little while was outdrawing Monday Night Raw in ratings. And that's his own company. He's mad that his own company, that one brand is out, doing his own creation of Raw. So it just shows you that he is a very competitive guy, as he fucking should be, because that's how he became the success that he is. He is a lion. He is the king of the fucking jungle when it comes to pro wrestling and sports entertainment. His company is internationally well known. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised that all these little things that you see happening are just basically small moves to make it more difficult for other companies to prosper to another level. Because if you think about it, if you would have told me 10 years ago, let me ask you, 10 years ago, would you think New Japan would have even had a shot at selling out Madison Square Garden? No. Even with Ring of Honor's help? Nope. No.
Not even Ring of Honor. Didn't even know them till recently, like as that big of a promotion.
And let me ask you another question on top of that. Would you ever think that in 2019, mind you, this is what, like nearly 20, almost 20 years, maybe I'm give or take, 17, 18, 19, 20 years, pretty much almost nearly 2 decades since an alternative brand of professional wrestling with big money behind it would be around again? After ECW and WCW collapsed, in your mind, did you think, okay, that's it? That's pretty much it. Yeah. In North America, at least.
Yeah, everyone just threw the towel. That's it. Just WWE, you're the top guys. We're done.
Exactly. So the fact that this is happening now, to me, it says one thing. WWE is about as Americana as you can fucking get. When you think about America and sports, what do you think? You think NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, Dallas Cowboys, the Yankees, the New York Rangers, and you think about all these sports, outlets in the United States. These are mainstays of American culture. WWE is a mainstay of American culture at this point. Whenever you talk about wrestling, to a person who doesn't watch wrestling, right? When you say wrestling, what's the first thing that they probably say to you?
Oh, is it WWE?
Exactly. Or WrestleMania. Those words are part of like the American lexicon. So there's no denying the fact that WWE is probably going to stay in business forever and be this big name. But what really puts it into perspective for me is that, be that as it may, WWE is always going to be number one. We got that. But there is such a strong enough voice out there, and at least a decent number of people out there that want something else. And yeah, there's tons of alternatives out there. I mean, you look at the British UK scene right now. The British UK scene is thriving from promotions like OTT, Progress, ICW, all these very strong independents in the UK scene. And then, of course, New Japan is thriving more than ever. And then, of course, you have Mexico, which has definitely, improve their production value. Like none of these things it's noticeable. Ring of Honor has grown exponentially, but 10 years ago, I would never have thought any of this was going to happen. And it just shows that there's that much of an audience out there that wants something different. Nobody wants to put WWE out of business. I think people want something not only different, but they want something that has the production and money behind it to make it a viable alternative. There are alternatives. I mean, there's you can go on YouTube all day and find all kinds of wrestling out there, or Twitch, or Fight TV. But the fact is, I think people miss that feeling of when we were growing up as kids. There was in America, there was WWE or F at the time, WCW, and for a little while ECW. And these were three viable options with three different types of wrestling. And it was fun. I don't know about you, but for me, it was fun.
It was, because you didn't know if somebody was going to another promotion, and then with all the run-ins everywhere else. And also, the thing is, every promotion brought something special to you. Mm-hmm. Like, what was the one thing that everyone loved about ECW? It's violent. Yeah. It's raw. You also saw a lot of international stars there. And then WCW, a lot of people know WCW for the NWO, but I personally think what really was the backbone of WCW is, in terms of people wanting to tune in, was the cruiserweights. Because at that point, in America, you didn't really see that kind of wrestling. You didn't. I mean, now you see that style everywhere. But back then, I mean, the first time I saw Rey Mysterio on American TV blew my mind. And then, of course, you had WWE, which they had these outlandish storylines with Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Nation of Domination and DX. And you had to watch it because it was controversial and shocking. And I think now people just want something else, And to throw a conspiracy at you, this has no basis at all, but what if AEW is working with WWE, kind of like ECW did behind the scenes back in the day?
You mean where ECW was trying to get some publicity and WWE wanted to make something? Yeah. I thought about that. I don't think it's happening though, because you have a billionaire family of the Khan family who are throwing their money into a new business venture. They already own the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have their money in so many different ventures that I think they really legitimately want to make something viable and successful. Tony Khan is a pronounced wrestling fan. There's no secret behind that. Yeah. So for me, it makes it super interesting that the Hall of Fame thing announcement happened, how it happened, with who's being involved. Because as of today, we got news that the official releases of Ty Dillinger, Kenta, and
TJP.
And yeah, exactly. TJP, all guys who were, in my opinion, tragically underutilized in WWE television. And then, of course, Arn Anderson is no longer working there as a producer. Now, you want to talk about a guy who understands ring psychology, who's probably been responsible for a lot of producing and helping guide wrestlers. Mm-hmm. Arn Anderson has to be up there. So the fact that he no longer works for WWE, you can't tell me that AEW is like, oh, maybe we can use some of these guys. Maybe we can use Arn Anderson for a producer role. Because I know both Abyss and who else was?
And Shane Helms.
What are they doing now in WWE?
They're producers.
Exactly. Everyone thought, they're going to wrestle. No, I think at this point, Shane Helms' wrestling career for the foreseeable future might be done, other than a special appearance on a Rumble or something. And then as far as Abyss, I think he's pretty much done. He's done what he's done. I don't think they're going to use him as a talent. Maybe as a surprise entrant at a Rumble, but is it any surprise that these guys are being hired as producers recently and they just let go of Arn Anderson? No. It just shows you that they want some fresh blood there.
Yeah.
To produce their product, to maybe kind of reinvigorate what's happening on TV. So none of this surprises me in a way. And it doesn't surprise me that you're starting to hear rumors and rumblings of wrestlers asking for their releases or actually not really interested in re-signing with WWE because they want to possibly work a lighter schedule or do something else. I mean, even amidst the controversy with Jimmy and Jey Uso, or with one of the Uso brothers getting arrested, that it was possibly linked to the fact that he wanted to get in enough trouble to get himself fired so he can go work somewhere else. I mean, I don't think that's true, but that was the rumor in the rumor mill. But the point is that, in my opinion, I mean, the Usos has done everything they can as a tag team in WWE. Do you really think those guys are going to flourish as singles wrestlers? No. So for me, the next logical step is go to Japan, go to AEW. Prove yourself out there. And I think there's a lot of wrestlers that have been underutilized, or people are starting to realize that if this AEW thing does take off, that there's another viable way to make money. Because at this point, Impact is in my opinion, Impact has a lot of talented guys, but it's a damaged name. It's a damaged name. It's unfortunate because they have a lot of talented guys, but I don't think you're going to see Impact winning any ratings wars or winning any popularity contest at this point.
Yeah, poor Impact.
Exactly. I think that in my opinion, it's a damaged brand.
I mean, they still have good shows.
They still have good
and
shows.
good wrestlers.
But the fact is, their audience has dropped drastically because of their new TV deal, which doesn't have the same exposure as when they had their exposure on Spike Television or anything like that. So, I don't know. It's a really interesting time to be a wrestling fan, but with all these things that are happening, especially with that Hall of Fame induction, I don't think it's coincidental. I think it's very deliberate. And I think Joni Laurer needs to be in the Hall of Fame on her own. She deserves to be in with DX, sure, but she deserves it just as equally, if not more, as what she did as a solo performer. But this is a way for her. This is a way to pretty much appease casual fans and get away from that topic finally, which I think it's a shame.
True. But yeah, I mean, so many crazy stuff you could think with this one induction.
Exactly.
It's very interesting.
And then, to caveat off that, I know with AEW Double or Nothing happening really soon here, the one thing that is really shocking to me is that Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker, will be appearing at the fan convention the night before at StarCast. Now, I think a lot of people are thinking, oh man, does that mean that Undertaker's going to AEW? No. I think Mark Calloway's wrestling career is done. I mean, what else does he need to prove? Not a damn thing. The guy's a legend, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one way or another. But I know the rumor is that he's doing StarCast, because a lot of Hall of Famers in WWE do wrestling conventions, do comic book conventions. I think he's just jumping on that bandwagon of like, you know what, I can make a lot of money with my name. I don't have to go into the ring and beat myself up in my 50s anymore. Yeah, I don't need to do that.
Game over for him.
Exactly, and rightfully so. He's had a beautiful, stellar career. But I know a lot of people, the rumor is that a lot of people in that front office are very upset that he did that. Because at the end of the day, even though StarCast is independent of AEW, it is still being conducted in conjunction with AEW Double or Nothing. I know Conrad Thompson, who's been who's a popular podcast guy. He does, something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. He's the one that puts on this convention. And he's also been doing a lot of commentary for AEW for a lot of these, events. So would it piss me off to have one of my marquee guys be anywhere close to that? Absolutely.
Yeah, he was already mad with Jericho. Not with this. I
mean, he told Jericho. Jericho told him, like, hey, this is what's happening. And I'm pretty sure Vince was like, yeah, it is what it is. It's business. But you can't tell me that doesn't get under your skin. One of your biggest stars that's still active decides, I'm not coming back. Because he even said it himself. He's like, if I would have gone back to WWE, all they would want me to do is the list thing. They would have wanted me to do something that I've already done already. And I don't want to do that. Because, it's clearly shown, even though Jericho is, I would say that he's not in his prime anymore, but he's, if anything, he's more on fire than he's ever been. And it's not because he's putting on like these classics against like Eddie Guerrero or Chris Benoit or Rey Mysterio or doing like these like 5-star matches that, you saw him wrestle when he was much younger. He could still go. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that as a character, as a presence in wrestling, he is on fire, especially with all of his matches that he had with Omega and Naito this past year. So I'm pretty sure that doesn't sit well with, his old home territory. So I don't know. It's really interesting the fact that Undertaker decided to go to StarCast and start making a name independently outside of WWE. Because did you notice on the marquee when they announced, okay, these are going to be the people that are going to appear at StarCast? Did you know what they put? Did you notice what they listed him as?
I didn't see.
Mark Calloway.
Yeah.
Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker. That is to avoid copyright infringement. If they just said The Undertaker, you can't use that.
Yeah.
That's a WWE property. It's a WWE name. It's a WWE brand. But if you say Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker, you can't get in trouble. Because he's using his real name, but he's also known as this. So
maybe they could have just used his motorcycle gimmick thing he had.
That's still a WWE property. Not possible. Point is, it's still The Undertaker.
Yeah.
It's still The Undertaker. So it's really interesting that a lot of these things are happening. So no, Mark Calloway is not going to wrestle for AEW, but the fact that he's associated with that weekend, I'm sure it pisses off some people in Connecticut, in Hartford.
Yeah, man. Everyone's probably angry. They're like, "What in the heck happened here?"
Yeah. So I mean, I know we got a long way to go before we see AEW on television. I'm really interested to see how things develop. Like I said, things are only going to get more interesting as time goes on. And the fact is, one thing I am bummed about though is that Kota Ibushi decided not to sign with AEW. He did announce that he's going to stay with New Japan. We talked about that.
Yeah.
But he said the reason why is that if he went to AEW, that'd be the end of his career. He said there would be nothing. I went over there and I did everything over there and I did everything on that stage. What else would I need to prove elsewhere? It's like I kind of want to still prove myself here. And I feel like if I'm going to change the world, I'm going to do it here in Japan. I can respect that. I still think I
agree with him.
I honestly think he might be the winner of the New Japan Cup, and he might take the title quickly from Jay White at Madison Square Garden. If you're going to put a match to headline that, Kota Ibushi versus Jay White would be my pick.
That'd be amazing.
Exactly. That's everyone knows Jay White can go, and Kota Ibushi is a badass. So I don't necessarily blame him for not joining AEW. But with all these political maneuverings and all these different releases and everything that's going on, you're going to see a lot of political maneuvering happening between now and for the rest of the year. And it's an interesting time to be a wrestling fan. Absolutely.
Wrestling fans win all the time with all this stuff going on.
Exactly. Yeah, and the thing is, it gives me the same feeling that I had in the 90s. It was exciting. Wrestling has been growing, in my opinion, for the past couple of years. It's been interesting again. Now more than ever.
I love what's going on. It gets your attention every time. You're just looking at your phone every second to see what's next person that maybe requested the release or gonna sign somewhere else.
Or who said what and whatever else. And a lot of times, like I said, this is what makes us smart marks. This is what makes us marks, is that we're constantly looking at the dirt sheets. But it's fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You don't know what else is out there. So keep watching, kids. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, watch out for your mom. That one didn't even make sense.
Yeah. So you know what? On that note, I'm out of here, kids. You got anything else, man?
I don't got anything else, sir.
All right, man. Well, this is it for another episode of Tiger Driver Radio. Keep an eye out because we will be having a fully comprehensive episode, this next one, about the Ring of Honor New Japan Pro Wrestling Honor Rising shows at Korakuen Hall. And we'll see what else we have in store for you. Maybe a surprise or two. Until then, catch you later.
Laters, guys.
Who the fuck was that?
What the hell was that? All right, man. Peace.
Bye.